And hello, everyone. Welcome to NextDev, the show for developers by developers. It's me, Dan Guswin, accompanied by my friend.
Ryan Vogel. And today we have a very special guest. We have Nate McGrady from X. How you doing, Nate?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
So today we're gonna kind of dive into your story of which is definitely not a weird one, but definitely a unique one in nature of how you got into tech and how you got to working for X. So, if you will, go ahead and how'd you get started with tech and what's your story?
Yeah, so I should say that I did not want to be a software engineer. Um, I didn't write my first line of code until I was like 18. So I grew up in a very small town in rural Minnesota, middle of nowhere. And my plan in life was to join the military, and I did. But my job that I tried to join was as a Navy SEAL. That's what I wanted to do. Um, I eventually went and found out I was like medically disqualified, and they switched me into a different job, which was in cybersecurity. So I kind of like randomly just selected it and ended up learning a lot of things that I know now from that job in the military. So that's kind of like how I started. That's how I got into it.
Right. So you had no prior like computing or code type
No,
experience at all.
no, like I had a computer, but I didn't know anything about software engineering. I didn't know that Linux was a thing. I didn't even know it existed. Um, but when I got to my training in the military, they taught me basically everything I needed to know. Um, it was kind of like my last resort to join the military because I barely graduated high school. I was like a 2.3 GPA, like a C D student. Um, and so I wasn't going to get accepted into any of the colleges that I applied to. I think I sent my ACT to like Harvard and Yale and all those people. But I think I got like an 18 because I fell asleep during the writing portion. Um, so yeah, I just like I wasn't a very great student, very like academic dude. Um, but that like I quickly had to like shift once I got to my technical training because it was a super like intense, very difficult training.
And that was with the Navy, you said, right?
Yeah, so when I joined the Navy, I attended the Joint Cyber Analysis course, which is this like military course where they get people from all branches, and it's like 6 months long, 8 hours a day, and they just teach you like 2 weeks at a time. They'll teach you topics. So like it'll be 2 weeks learning like discrete structures, and then like 2 weeks learning hardware, 2 weeks learning intro to programming, and at the end of these 2 week like training sessions, there's a test, and if you fail, you're out. Like you're kicked out. And so some of those people got kicked out of the military. Um, I think like if you got one failure, they'd let you roll back into a different class, and then if you failed out again, you were completely out. So like my class started with 22, and I think we graduated with like 10 or 11. Um,
Wow. Wow. So it's
yeah,
like progressive like elimination type thing. Wow, that is
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, exactly. It was very hard, and but I learned a lot of really cool things. Like I learned that's where I wrote my first lines of code. That was like C++, and then we got into like ethical hacking. I learned how to hack people. I learned how to respond to getting hacked, and then I did that in the Navy for about 6 years. I worked in cyber defense.
That's cool. That's wow.
Right on. Can you tell us a little bit about why Navy? Why was this your goal?
Yeah, yeah. So I picked the Navy because I wanted to be a SEAL. Like that was my goal. I was like, I'm gonna be a Navy SEAL. This is what I want to do. Um, and then I quickly, well, after I got medically disqualified, I was like, okay, I need to do something else. And I was already in the Navy, so I was like, all right, I just got to keep going. So I did that for 6 years before I interviewed and left.
Interesting. So, once you got out of Joint Cyber Analysis course, how do you call the acronym of that? Is that JATE? JCAC?
Yeah, we say JCAC. Yeah.
JCAC.
Uh, I think there's been probably a good amount of people who've graduated it now. It's like it's a pretty popular course. I hope it's still really difficult, but yeah, we call it JCAC. Anybody who knows it, like if you know what it is, you know what it is, kind of thing. Yeah.
Gotcha. So after JCAC, where did you? So you worked in cyber defense,
Yep.
and where'd you go from there?
Yeah. So my first duty station was in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. I was stationed in Pearl Harbor for 3 years. Um, that was really cool. I got to do some cool deployments. Went overseas a couple times, and then I came back and I was stationed in Maryland at Fort Meade. And I was there for 2 years as well, doing cyber defense, mostly training, like training cyber defense analysts.
That's cool. Were you now? I know it was Navy, but were you mostly like on land or doing like stuff
Yeah,
on boats and stuff like that? Because managing a network on land is hard enough. I can't even imagine having to do that stuff on a boat.
yeah. As you can imagine, you have to roll a lot of Cat 6 to reach the ships. That was a joke. I think my job, the kind of work that I did, wasn't really aligned with the Navy at all. I didn't actually work for the Navy. I worked for like the Department of Defense, technically. Um, so yeah, I never went on any boats. I went on like one ship, like one time I toured it, and I was like, this is terrible. I never want to be on a boat, and so I never was. I was on land in a cushy office, you know, super chill for a military job for sure.
What was the longest you've spent in the sea?
Oh, I think it was probably that boat, like that tour that I did of someone's boat, which was like 30 minutes, if you count that. Um, when I did a deployment, I would fly, like I would fly in a regular commercial flight for a couple weeks at a time, and then I'd fly back.
That's really
Yeah.
cool. So obviously, you were a position of a cyber warfare technician. Is that correct? Was that the
Yeah.
official title, or
Yeah.
like?
So I was technically a cryptologic technician, and then as I like phased out of the military, it got changed to cyber warfare technician, which sounds really cool. Like it sounds cool to say that you're a cyber warfare technician, and that was like my official title. Technically, when I separated from the military, was a cyber warfare technician second class. Yeah,
Holy cow! Sounds like you got like the massive like robot things from the
it
movie.
sounds
I can't remember the name of.
it sounds a lot cooler than my current position, which is just like senior engineer.
Need to get that honorary cyber warfare technician. Got to go to
Yeah,
got to go to the
exactly.
grave with that one.
Yeah,
So you were a cyber warfare technician, and now you're at X. So
yeah.
how did that happen?
It was pretty interesting. I interviewed at Twitter in like August or no, July of 2022. Um, I applied as a joke. I remember seeing the posting and I was like, I'm gonna apply for Twitter. There's no way these guys are gonna call me back. Um, and randomly they did. They set up an interview. Um, and then that led to another interview and so on and so forth. And I eventually received an offer in like August. So it was like right around my 24th birthday. Um, I think it was a couple weeks after my 24th birthday. And I received this offer to be a senior security engineer at Twitter. But I was still in the military at the time. I couldn't start until November. So I accept the offer. And then, like, as I'm waiting, I start hearing all this stuff in the news about, like, oh, by the way, Twitter might get sold. Um, and fun fact that did happen for those of you who haven't been keeping up. Um, so that was really interesting. I started about 2 weeks after the acquisition. So like Elon comes in, buys a company, and then like through all that chaos, I'm like onboarding, and joining the company, which is pretty interesting.
What was the interview process like?
For me, I can't remember too much. I think it was like 4 or 5 rounds. And it was really fun. I've interviewed at a lot of like cool companies. And I think still to this day, it's the most fun interview process I've ever had. Um, it was like an initial phone screen with a recruiter. And then the second interview was a interview with the hiring manager, and she was super nice and very, very friendly. Um, and that was like asking me kind of like your generic behavioral questions, but then also like random things like explain DNS or stuff like that, like generic high level security questions. Um, she pushed me through to the next round, and then I had like 3 or 4 what are they called? Like technical screenings. So it was like 3 or 4 hour long interviews with like 2 or 3 people, and they'd ask like technical or behavioral questions.
That's
Right
cool.
on.
Yeah, that's super cool. So, and you said you were there during like the transition from like Twitter to X. What were some of the biggest thing?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that's got to be so hectic. Like you're literally walking in. It's like that one meme of like the guy walking down the steps of the pirate ship as it's like being blown to bits.
Yeah.
It's like I
Yeah.
can only imagine it's got to be like that because everything's changing and evolving and moving. So like, what was that like?
Yeah, I remember because the acquisition happened, I think in October, August. What comes before November? October, right? So I think it's like the last few days of October. It gets sold, and I'm sitting there like panicking because I hear like, oh, all these employees are being laid off, and I'm like, I just accepted this job offer. I'm in the military. Like, I already told the military I'm leaving, so like I'm really like, counting on this. And so I was messaging my recruiter over and over and over, and like my hiring manager, I was like, "Hey, do I still have a job?" And they kept on like reassuring me. They're like, "Oh yeah, you have a job," which was chill. But by the time I started, which was like November 14th, I think like that same day was the day all the employees got that email that was like, "Hey, do you want to stay here?" Um, so I was basically offered like 3 months of pay to leave on my like second week at the company. Um, and I said no. They had to call me because I didn't have a work laptop yet, so I didn't really have my email set up. So like an HR person had to like call me on the phone and be like, "Hey, do you want to stay at the company?" And I was like, yeah, why not?"
That's funny.
Yeah.
You didn't get invited to one of those interviews with Elon with code reviews and stuff, did you?
No. Well, I would have been too new to the company like when all that happened. And I was remote. I still am remote, but I was remote working in like the DC area. But I do know that they had to like approve everybody who was remote. I heard some people say that like Elon was like personally approving those. I have no idea if that's like actually what happened, but um, yeah, I think I had to get approval for my job to like stay, and then I had to get approval to stay remote. And then I moved to Minnesota, and so I had to get approval for that as well to stay being remote.
I
Yeah.
see. So you talked a bit about the onboarding process. Can you share a bit what it was like? Like what entails the onboarding process? How long does it last at X?
Well, mine was very different because I started with like I don't know, maybe 30 people who all like started around the same time, and that was like I think we were all like part of the last wave of new hires for a while. Um, but the team that did onboarding was laid off, so like um, they basically like sent me a laptop and then just said get to work. That's kind of like what I had to do because there's nobody to like onboard me. They're like, here's how you find the docs. Come to this like internal site and search, and then answer your own problems, that kind of thing. So it was definitely like teach yourself how to swim.
Wow, how much was it of like a mess, like in your opinion? Obviously don't share anything you can't, but like was it like when you got there when looking at the docs was it like messy or
Well, there's a lot. I mean, there's still a lot. Like the amount of information, the amount of code, the amount of like documentation, it's just absurd. Like it's such a massive company that's been around for so long. Um, that it's just like it was super like overwhelming, but like the actual company itself was really chill. It's always been like super chill, at least like compared to what most people think. I remember I was telling my friends and family, I was like, oh, I accepted a job at Twitter, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, that's going to be like, I heard it's hardcore, are you going to be okay? And I was like, I'm literally in the military right now, like I'm in the like they say it's hardcore because I have to work 8 hours a day. I'm like, please let me only work 8 hours a day. um yeah, so it's really chill. It's been really cool. Like it wasn't very hectic. My team that I was a part of, like everyone was great, brilliant at what they do, and like very organized. So I didn't think it was very hectic at all.
That's
So, to give a bit of background to the listeners, during the layoffs, about 80% of the workforce at Twitter was let go. And Nate was one of the lucky ones to stay. Um, did you actually? So, you said the ones who were supposed to onboard you were let go. Like, how senior were people that were let go? I'm just curious what the process was.
I don't know because like when I showed up, it was after some of it had already happened, and like some of it was in the process of happening, and I was remote. So like I didn't know anybody at the company. I had no context of how many people there actually were to begin with. Um and like because I was remote and like I was approved to like keep working there, like I was so separated from any and everything that was happening. It was just like a couple of months where um they'd be like, oh, by the way, all these people got laid off, and I was like, I've never heard of any of those people or any of those departments. Like I don't know what anything is.
you're
So
like, oh no, man,
yeah.
dang it. Ah,
Yeah, that I never worked at Twitter 1.0, so that like um I hear people tell me about it and it sounds incredible if you're like cool with just like doing nothing. It seems like it was a really like chill place to work. Um but like I don't have anything to compare it to, so like I'm not upset about like my current work environment because it's all I know. And I think it's like pretty cushy. So
right. Yeah, definitely sounds pretty cool. So, as a you said it was a senior security engineer role.
yeah.
What were some of your stuff with that you did? Any cool stories?
Um Yeah, I was a senior security engineer on the detection and response team. So that's like handling threat prevention, detection and response when it comes to like the actual platform. Um, Not necessarily like if an account gets hacked. I don't really care about that. It's more like if like X gets hacked, you know, or at the time if Twitter got hacked. That's more like what my team would respond to, or write detections for and to test and stuff. Um, I think like all of the stuff that I worked on, I wouldn't be able to talk about. Um, but I will say like it's a really secure environment. Like the engineers, the security engineers that there are so good, and were so good that like it's really low volume. Like the amount of like security events and stuff.
Nice. You're locked in. You're just
Yeah.
completely locked
They were
in.
locked in. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's cool. So, after the senior security engineer, you transitioned to live stream to live out your dreams as a Twitch live stream content creator.
Yeah. Yeah, I streamed a lot when I was in the military. Like I made affiliate. So I had like 200 hours streamed or something. Like enough to like understand what the process was and like what the product is. Um and I remember when I was first learning how to do like live streaming, I'd go to YouTube and I'd be like, how to grow on Twitch, like how to grow as a live streamer. And all the videos are like, oh, you need to grow on Twitter. And then every time you go live, tell people on your Twitter and have them like come over. Um, and I was like, that's kind of silly. Like, why don't I just go live on Twitter? Like, if you get enough people following, instead of like trying to redirect them, why don't you just like go live on Twitter?
Right.
Um, but that wasn't really a thing. And so like like I messaged the people who worked on live and I was like, hey, you should really like focus on user like live streams. Like the live product was very brand focused. Like Pepsi's doing a live stream, you know, Tesla's doing a live stream. Like these really big companies would do a live stream, but it wasn't like regular people, like actual users,
Right. Like
like
nobody could
Twitch streamers.
access it. I think
Yeah.
because when was that, like, what, a two time has moved so weird. Was that like a year or so ago before it like didn't
Yeah.
exist?
Yeah, like I mean it existed, but it just wasn't being used. And it wasn't marketed towards like users or like non-brand creators, you know, like regular people.
Right.
Um and so I was like, hey, we should do this. Like we should try to focus on user generated content. Like let's focus on getting regular streamers, like regular people to go live on X. Um and eventually I would just like work nights and weekends on that while working my 9 to 5 as a security engineer. Um, and then it, like eventually got to a point where like I was in meetings with Elon talking about the product and like pitching ideas, and I was like, he'd say something like, "Oh, that's cool," and I'd be like, "Okay, cool. Can we get someone to work on it?" And then they'd be like, "You're the one who's going to work on it," and that's kind of like how it went. I would work on things, and eventually it got to a point where my responsibilities with live were like exceeding my responsibilities on security engineering. I felt like I could bring more value to the company with like the live work I was doing. So I asked them, I was like, "Hey, can I switch over and like work on live features full time?" And they said, "Yeah." They said, "Sure, come do it." And that's what I've been doing ever since.
It sounds awesome. I honestly was under impression that it was Elon's idea, but I understand many people came forward with a suggestion of focusing on consumer streaming.
Yeah, it. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely said stuff about it like before I think Elon went live. Because I went live back when like you had to use like Restream to go live. You couldn't even do it yourself. So this was like almost 2 years ago now. Um, but yeah, I think originally what I did is I made a mock-up in Xcode for like an iPad assistant tool, like that would show your metrics and chat and stuff. Um, that's how I got into my first meeting with like Elon, and then they were like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then you guys, I don't remember exactly how it went, but they're like, "Oh, okay, this like product's cool. Like, are you gonna build it?" And I was like, Sure." But then eventually, like a week later, I was like, "This is stupid. Like, let's build something else." And then we started working on chat, adding chat to web because on web at the time, you couldn't access chat; it just didn't exist. So I was like, "Oh, that's like a big issue because like 50%, over 50% of Twitch viewers are on desktop. So like if we want people to like participate in live streams on desktop, we should probably have a chat." So I worked on that first version, and I've been working on that ever since.
And I feel like that, like the chat aspect in and of itself, on any platform, I'm more likely to be engaged and like stay on the platform if it's like I can interact with like a chat interface. So it's like, because if I'm like just have like a screen up and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm watching this, nah, I can kind of close it. But if it's like I'm interacting with the creator and stuff like that, I think that's like a lot bigger of a draw.
Yeah, yeah. I went to TwitchCon and I met a lot of like really cool creators. And I think like the main takeaway I had was that Twitch isn't a like video app. It's like a chat app that has video. That's really what it is. Like there are some of the biggest creators in the world could have a blank screen and still be popping off. Because it's about the chat. Um, and like with that knowledge, like I brought it back to the team and I was like, "Hey, we need to figure out chat. We need to make it like more engaging." I think you can probably, if you search for it, you can find what the first version of chat looked like. It was pretty rough. It's very different than what it looks like now. I worked on like the current version on web, and kind of like the current design of it. Um,
I'm looking.
but
I'm
yeah,
trying to find that right now.
if yeah, it's pretty. Hopefully you don't, because it was pretty bad. Like it was just a username, like it was just your handle in text followed by like a random color from our like color theme book. um
Is this it? Hold on. Let me share my screen. I think I might have found it. I don't know. This is probably wrong, but
we'll see. We can
let's.
talk about whatever yeah, I
Is
look
that
at
it?
look at that screenshot. Look at that screenshot. Pull it up, Jamie. Pull that up. Pull it up, Jamie. Wait, quick arc. Crazy photo off the rip.
Oh my gosh, the ads.
ads.
The original photo isn't even on there.
Hold on.
All right,
Just open the original image. Just copy image address.
Where'd it go?
Where'd it go?
Am I going
Am I
crazy?
going crazy?
wait, scroll up. It's right there.
Oh,
Yeah,
there
yeah.
it is.
There it is.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I worked on this.
Oh no way!
Yeah, it's your boy.
That's so funny.
So this was from our like initial announcement that it released, and if you look at like what it looks like now, compared to that, it's very different. I didn't actually work on the technical side of it because I hadn't really done like software engineering at that time.
Yeah, that looks a lot better.
Yeah, like it's fine. The problem is that it doesn't align with the branding of the company at all. Like it looks like it doesn't belong on the site when you compare it to the rest of like the design and branding, which is actually a really like difficult hurdle. Everything with the design, I would talk to our designers. I'd be like, hey, it'd be really cool if we can do this or that. But the like frequently I'd get pushback, and it's like, we got to make sure it aligns with everything. And we eventually settled on the current implementation. But yeah, that's me. That's your boy.
That's so funny. What
Yeah.
season is this? Is this hold on? Greasy Grip. Hold on, I can do this. It's probably somewhere in chapter 2. I'd have to guess based off the UI.
Yeah. But I mean, even that screen where you're watching the broadcast is like completely different now.
What was this
Yeah.
emoji? The fire emoji. What was that?
Trends, maybe.
Interesting.
Trending. Yeah. Yeah, but now there's so much more. Like we've added a lot of features to this, and there's like the actual live screen that I made, and like the live doc, which is also really cool.
Right, like the picture-in-picture thing is pretty nice because then you can watch a live stream and doom scroll at the same time, which is like
that's what I said. Like the thing where you just sent a message in chat to like see what it looks like. I built that. And like my main thing I was saying when like we did it, I was like, it's the Subway Surfers method. Like we need to have people watching Subway Surfers while like scrolling their timeline, but instead of Subway Surfers, it's a live stream. Like users come to the platform because they want to scroll the timeline, and we can't like make them decide between that and like a live stream. We should give them both. And that's what we've done with that doc. And I've been using it for a long time, and I love it. But I'm obviously extremely biased.
No, but I think it's good. I do think we need a couple more grok icons all over the screen because
bro, one more grok icon, bro, please.
That's
please,
all
bro.
we need. I just need to be able to access it a little bit faster because moving the mouse too much, I don't think it's worth it.
I think I could work on a feature where we just like activate your mic at all times, so then you can say, "Hey, grok."
That's awesome, dude.
I'm kidding. I wouldn't. But like, I think it would be cool to work grok into live chat. So then you could do like a /grok followed by like a question or something. Or like /grok, like what happened. And then it could like summarize the stream so far. Stuff like that would be cool.
Like catch me up or something.
Cool.
Sounds very cool. Essentially integrate grok as a chatbot within chat.
Yeah.
That's really interesting because I had that as a thought for this stream because I was like, I feel like AI isn't implemented into like the live streams that good because you could have based off of chat like every minute or something like that have AI just scrape the past like 100 messages in chat and then be like based off of this make a animation or choose one of these animations to portray the mood in chat. I'm like, I feel like that type of level of integration would be really, really cool, especially with like grok because it's integrated onto the actual platform.
Yeah, and animation might be tricky, but like a simpler like V1 would be like an emoji, like which emoji best represents like the current state of the stream or the current state of like chat, or describe the stream using emojis. Like is much easier.
That'd be so funny. You're just scrolling on X and then like you see some guy like live streaming, just like it's like the crying emoji all over the place. It's like 2 viewers and it's like, dang, bro, that's rough.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, that's super cool. And I'm gonna be completely honest. Up until just about before we started the show officially, I thought X Spaces and X Livestream were the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like a very common like thing. You can do video spaces, right? Like I could start a space right now with video. And that's something like we've talked about at the company as well. It's like we have these two products that are very similar. How do they stand out? Like how do they differentiate from each other? And my philosophy with it is that like a live stream is like a performance. I think of it as like a form of performance art. Versus like a spaces is like a group chat conversation type thing. If I'm going to do a live stream, my intention is that it's going to be me and my chat, and like I'm going to be carrying the load. Like I'm going to be carrying the weight of providing entertainment for this entire thing. But if I'm doing a space, like my intention is I'm going to have like other people come up and have like this conversation. So
Yeah, I think
That's
that
kind of like how I think about it.
I think that makes sense because all the spaces I've been on, it's been like a lot more informal, just like yapping rather than
Yeah.
like a presentation type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Or like if someone wants to do like, game streaming, which is probably like the most common. It definitely is the most common kind of streaming. Um, it's not people who are like playing video games and they want to like also talk to their viewers. Like, um, I'm sure there's some people, but like someone who has like thousands and thousands of viewers doesn't want to also like be dealing with like bringing up speakers and like handling what people are going to be saying over their stream. Um, it's just like a comedian doesn't want to have like hecklers, like they have like a whole thing, they have like a shtick, they have a performance that they want to go through. Um, so that's how I differentiate them. That said, I did like beta test something the other day where like I was doing a live stream, or I was doing a video space, and I was also live streaming like my same video broadcast to Twitch and YouTube and like to X at the same time. And so like people in the space would see the video content and like stuff I was doing, but people on all the other platforms would hear the other speakers in the space as they came up. So like on Twitch, they would hear the people who are coming up in the space and speaking, but also seeing the video content.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Well, I can say that hearing you talk about these problems, it makes a lot of sense to me how you ended up in product engineering. It's all about empathizing with the end user, understanding the problems they're experiencing, and building for those problems. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I am a prolific user of the product as well. I probably go live. I can tell you, I do go live more than any other ex-employee by like a considerable amount. Second would probably be Elon.
I think a
But
close third would probably be Zach. I have to say because
not
maybe not live, but I've
maybe
seen a
Yapsine would pass him.
true.
It'd probably be Yapsine and then Zach, if we have to be honest. But because I use it, like it's the best feedback loop. Like I could be doing a live stream and then people pop into chat and they'd be like, hey, this part of what I'm looking at right now, it's not good. And I can be like, okay, write it down in my notebook over there on my desk. And then I fix it. So that's really cool. It's really cool to like work on something and then have your users like basically give you feedback in real time while using that product. I don't know if there's any other product where you can really do that.
Hot fixes.
Unless like you work at Slack and then you have your users send you messages on Slack, or maybe Discord, right? Like Discord is a product where you could join Discord's Discord and give them feedback. But other than that, I don't really know
Yeah,
like where else you could do
I
that.
think Discord might be like the biggest. Well, actually no, I think X would be the biggest because it's like you're using X on X. That's funny.
Yeah,
because it's
like
like
the
it's like live hot fixes.
Yeah, it's like the exhibit meme where it's like, yo, dog, I heard you like blank. So I put blank in your blank so you can blank while you blank. So it's like, yeah, I heard you like X. So I put X in your X. You can, yeah. um, but yeah, I definitely am more like product minded, I like to think. I'm not a super good software engineer. Um, so I definitely try to depend on my ability to like prioritize based on what users actually want, what's actually going to make the product better versus like just trying to optimize things or like make things run better or do things that only like other developers will be, oh, that's cool.
Right.
um
Now the million
yeah
dollar question is when you're developing, doing software stuff like that, because you've a pretty dense with JCAC and everything. You have a pretty dense
yeah
background of like actual fundamentals of software engineering. Do you
yeah
use like a heavy amount of AI when you code?
I as someone who doesn't have a background in software engineering, like my personal projects, I use it a lot. um but I feel like I'm not very good at it. Um, I really like it for autocomplete, but anything beyond a few lines or like I think anything above like 10 lines, like it starts to not give me the result I need. And then I spend more time like debugging and like trying to fix it versus like if I do it myself. But the main reason that I try not to do it is because like I actually enjoy like the process. Like I find it enjoyable to do it first. It's like if you play chess online and like you keep just like saying hint and then doing the hint, like at what point are you not playing chess anymore? your computer's playing chess and you're just there watching. So yeah, that's kind of like my feeling on it. But I do think it's really nice for just autocomplete. So I use it for like autocomplete a lot on like
Is there
blind.
is there an official policy for usage of LLMs for coding?
I'm not sure what the like official policy is. Like if there's uh like I imagine it's just that you can't like share company or like private information um like with an LLM. I'm not sure. But what I do want to do is I want to get access to like Grok 3 internally and then use that in like Cursor. I think that'd be pretty sweet.
Just upload the entire company code base to like ChatGPT, be like, guys, it didn't fix anything, and also all of our data is gone. My bad.
Yeah. 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 Our IP is all stolen. There's a Blue Skies now, the biggest app. Yeah. But yeah, that's like my opinion on using like AI. I think it's really convenient though on like side projects just to like start out and just give me like a bunch of boilerplate code. The problem is that like when you work in an environment like our environment, it's just so complex. And if you don't have like the code base indexed, which like it's impossible with the size of our code base, um, it's just like it's not going to be as effective. So
Right. Yeah, that I'm sure that context kind of dies off because even with some like larger like Next projects or some like larger Python or Laravel projects, it kind of just dies out and it's like let me recreate this type that is obviously defined in 9 different other files that I could pull from, but
yeah,
you know what? I'm just going to do it myself.
yeah, exactly. Um, yeah,
Let me all
Yep.
right.
So I'm really curious. So software engineering is not your original profession. How did you start learning it? How did you pick up the skill set?
it started with the live streaming chat stuff. Um, I knew software engineering, I knew Python, just because like as a security engineer, you need to know that stuff. Um, like you need to know some assembly, JavaScript, just like at a very high level. Um, but I will say like I didn't know anything about React, and like that's a whole different beast compared to like what my background was. Um, like worrying about re-renders and state is never never really been important for the work that I did. Um, so I started working on that like chat thing, and this is more like just as like I was like a product consultant for this team essentially. And there's an actual like web developer, Keith, at the company who's incredible, and he's the person who built like the actual implementation of chat, like the V1. Um, and like I would just ping him occasionally, and I'd be like, "Oh, we should change this like little thing here and there." And he's just like so busy because he's like constantly doing like a million things. I was like, "Oh, I can try it. Like I can try to figure it out." And that's like kind of how it started. Like I made like my first commit, and it was like a couple lines, and it probably brought down prod for like 5 minutes or something. But then slowly, like my next commit's a couple more lines, couple more lines. Like now I'm starting to understand like Redux. I'm starting to understand like the bigger picture, not just this one screen that I'm working on. Um, and like I was going to college for CS at the same time. Uh, I was going to an online school, and I remember like I was taking like intro to programming because I didn't have a credit for it. Um, and I like lost my 4.0 GPA because like one night I had to like skip doing one of my Java projects where it was probably just like write a for loop 10 times because I was working on like writing code for x.com. And I was like I had a moment there where I was like this is ridiculous. Like why am I like wasting my time doing this? And so I did a post. I was like, should I drop out of college and like work on side projects? And Elon replied and he was like, work on side projects. And he's definitely not biased. But yeah, so I did. And then I just like committed all my extra time to like learning. So like I work now like 8 hours a day at least on like software engineering. But then I'm still like learning software engineering on like at nights and on the weekends. Like I'm doing courses online, trying to just like catch up. Um, Mainly because like I don't want to be like a staff software engineer. Like I want to be leading product, but I know like what a big difference it makes to have someone doing product who like actually understands, the reality of code. You can explain what things are actually possible.
Trying to find
Yeah.
that tweet that I'm gonna dig deep into the archives to find the
Yeah,
tweet of where you said.
to find it.
I know I
It's
will.
there.
I know I will. I just gotta keep scrolling.
Yeah, my X account only had, I think, like a few hundred. Not even when I first started at the company. 2 weeks after the acquisition, I think my X account had 3 followers. Um, so it was a pretty new account, and now I'm at 28,000. And my X badge has nothing to do with that. Kidding. It's very, very obviously why most people follow. Um, but yeah, I've had some posts that have done really well, and it's usually when Elon replies.
I know it was so funny. I messaged Zach today because he got quoted by Elon. Let me
Yeah,
pull it up.
that'll do it.
Yeah, and like
Yeah,
the
I saw it.
yeah the love to see it both number one Grok and X, and his normals are like 100 or 200K. That jumped up to like 3.8.
Zach's normals are 100K.
Are they
No
not?
way.
Are they
No
not?
way, dude. I hope Zach's watching right now. No way they are. I'll call him out right now. He
Oh
does.
no,
He
never
does.
mind. I thought they
Yeah,
were a lot high. I guess I only see his bangers then.
you only see his bangers. That's the algorithm. It works. It's shielding you. Um, no, Zach's great. Zach's super cool. He's like finally like there's employees younger than me because when I started I was like, I was 24. As a senior engineer at 24 too. Like not a lot of people at the same level were the same age. So like I was like the token Zoomer. um, and now like there's people who are actually like younger than me, younger Zoomers, which is kind of cool.
Hell yeah, we need more Zoomers in the marketplace, man, and like the
That's what I'm
workforce.
saying. That's
Like
what I'm saying. I could be the oldest Zoomer at the company at some point, which would be pretty cool.
that senior Zoomer management.
Senior Zoomer.
We'll have
That could be
a
my official.
senior Zoomer warfare expert.
Yeah, exactly.
um. All right. What do we got next? So from here, what is your goal? What is your goal with either X, your personal projects? Where to from here? Obviously, don't say anything like next week I'm leaving X, dropping
Yeah.
everything, moving to
Yeah.
Hawaii. But like, what's
Yeah.
your long term goals type thing if you have any? I hate that question.
Yeah.
Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, I don't know where I'm gonna see myself tomorrow, type thing.
It depends on who's asking. Like if it's an interviewer, my answer to that is always like at this company. Um and then like I'll be like, I said this to the last 6 people I had spoke to, or whatever. My long-term goal was to marry a technical recruiter, and I did. My wife is a technical recruiter for software engineers. And that was my like 200 IQ gigabrain idea because then if I ever get fired, she can recruit me.
Planning for the
But
long run, nice.
yeah. No, I've kind of like stayed at X this long just because like it's like high risk, high reward. I think it's like really fun to just see what's gonna happen. Like, why not? I feel like if I would have left X, if I would have taken that offer from Twitter to just like have 3 months, and I had an offer with like Amazon at the time too, so I could have just like left and then took all that money and then go work at Amazon. Um, but like we wouldn't be here right now. We wouldn't be having this conversation if I did. Um, and I wouldn't have been able to like meet all these really big streamers. I did a post about this today, but like I've met like people who I've been watching since middle school. Like people who I like looked up to when I was first like starting to stream. And like when I meet them, they're like, "Oh, hi, I'm so and so and I make, content like this." And I'm like, I know who you are. Trust me. I've donated like all of my, allowance to you. Um,
You were there for the let's plays.
yeah, exactly. Um, so that's cool. But I think long term, I do want to shift into like being more product focused. Like I want to stay somewhat technical, um, but I just want to like be able to like steer the direction of the product, whether that's here at X or that's anywhere else. Um, but I also am partially interested in just like giving up tech altogether, knowing like what I know and just like start like a woodworking company and just like build stuff with my hands and never look at a computer ever again.
I think
So
that's
it's about
every
like,
tech bro's dream, just to kind of throw
yeah,
every computer into the woods and just kind of build a log
yeah,
cabin. Just live off of your own hands.
Just ship my AI slop ChatGPT wrapper, and get enough money to go live in a cabin in the woods and never look at it again.
Get YC
Um,
funding.
yeah. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. Just like I'm working on side projects and I'm trying to like make them fit into my regular work role as well. Um, which is tricky sometimes. Like it's tricky if when you have a side project that's very similar to the work that you're doing all day, because then it can like contribute to burnout. So you have to like keep them kind of separate. But I don't want to do something in my free time that doesn't add value during my regular like work day.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Gotta bring value to the shareholders. I mean, like
Yeah.
that's our ultimate essence of being here as like
Yeah.
employees or workers. It's those shareholders, man. You gotta bring them value.
I'm trying to be a corporate weapon. I'm trying to maximize shareholder value. And as an ex-shareholder, I obviously want to, have X shares go up.
Working for yourself. Just that infinite loop right there.
Yeah, they can't fire me if I have X shares. That makes me a partial owner.
Be like, you know what, this Nate guy, nah, I think we should keep him on. I know him through a friend. He's actually pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
All right. I think that covers our agenda, right?
That's everything that I've got down, but I did have a couple of not personal, but like what are some of like the personal projects kind of veering away from like the corporate work. All right, the cameras are off type thing, but not really. You're still alive. You got 30,000 people watching right now. All cameras are on you.
Nice.
But like what type of personal projects and stuff like that are you working on? What you got on the pipeline?
Yeah, so right now I'm working on this like project using X API and Grok API. It's redrafter.ai. I bought it. And it's I've only worked on it like last weekend. But the idea is that I want to be able to like fetch all your drafts from like social media platforms and like your post history essentially. Yeah. And then we're gonna have like have Grok essentially summarize like your voice based on your post history and then apply it to your drafts to like reword them. Because I have a lot of drafts that are just sitting in there and they're just like they're close to being ready. But if I put them into Chat GPT, for example, it's gonna like spit out LinkedIn slop and
I
then it just
know.
makes it worse. So the idea is just to like have like a really well trained model that understands your post history and like can help you like release posts that still sound like you.
Literally, yeah. The speaking of the LinkedIn stuff, oh my gosh, it is horrible. Some of the stuff that's on there, like they don't even
Yeah.
remove like when you like copy it and it's still got like the markdown formatting. They don't even like
Yeah.
remove some of that half the time. It looks like it's literally just like a slot pipeline,
Yeah.
and you're like, what are we doing here? This is crazy. Oh, and then hold on, I saw this the other
Yeah.
day. But if you search on Amazon, what is it? It's like the if you've met your quota or something like that, and Amazon product listings will have, and the internet doesn't want to work now, but
They fixed it, but yeah, you used to be
No.
able to look up just common messages that ChatGPT would output on Amazon. It's ridiculous.
That's hilarious. My favorite thing is to like look up something obscure on Amazon and then filter it by like highest price and then read the reviews because they're always cursed. It'll be like a book, or like a bookmark for $25,000, and then the top comment will be like 5 stars, and it'd be like, I had to sell all of my children for this bookmark.
bet 10 out of 10 best purchase I've ever done.
Yeah, and you can do it with like every product. Like just pick a very obscure thing, go to Amazon, filter price high to low, and then find the first thing that just has a bunch of reviews. It's really fun.
That's funny. And then I
Yeah.
don't know why this reminded me, but I remember talking to you the other day when we were getting you set up. But you said that you sometimes will get like texts from Elon to like
Yeah.
implement stuff. Does he just like
Yeah.
be like, "Hey man, can you center this div and like just like go ahead
Yeah.
and just
Yeah,
like
he says-
fix the
and
margin
I say
on
no,
that?"
dude. I say no, I can't. I do not know how to center a div. Justify center. Yeah, it's more like if he's about to do a live stream, if there's a big live stream that's about to happen. But he's like he'll give me feedback directly, which is really cool. And he like encourages everybody to reach out to him with feedback directly. It's not like frowned upon by any means. Like if you think something needs to happen and like there's not enough traction behind it, you can go like reach out to him. But he also doesn't want to like have a problem on the site and then be like, who do I speak to? And they're like, oh, that's the blank team. He's like, who's the blank team? He's like, I need a person. And so for a lot of the live stuff, that's usually me.
So like
Yeah.
so you would say he's like pretty deeply integrated in like the day-to-day stuff, because I know I see it, you
Yeah.
see a lot of stuff where it's like, oh, Elon goes and he like buys something or does something and then like doesn't touch it at all. But like
Yeah.
I've seen from like all his side ventures and everything, he seemed pretty deeply integrated into that. Would you say that's the same, or like what, like how
Yeah.
deep?
Well, I mean, he's like an insane power user, right? Like he uses the app more than almost every user, right? So like he has a really good like opinion about like certain features, and he would have like the most time to find bugs because he spends like a lot of time on that. So yeah, I think it's really good, and he wants to talk to engineers. He doesn't really go through managers because it just like delays getting an answer. And that's kind of like how we operate at the company. Like if you need a question or like an answer, you just like reach out to whoever can give you that answer. Like you don't have to have your manager talk to their manager or whatever, which is really cool.
So you think it's very like shipping oriented for the
Oh yeah,
the
dude. Yeah.
it's like
Uh, yeah, it's very, very shipping oriented. Um, and yeah, like interacting with Elon's been really cool. The first time I spoke to him, I was like maybe my third month of the company, and he did like an all hands, and I pitched like an idea to do like a Ticketmaster type competitor, using like X Premium, and I've posted about this a couple times, but essentially like fighting bots by like doing pre-sale events using X Premium. Um, and I remember like I was super nervous and I like stumbled the question, and he like asked follow-up questions, and he was like very kind, and he like made sure that he like understood the question. Um and that was like the first time where like I realized like, oh, he's like a regular person. And going on from that, he's always been like really kind to me, and very like personable. So
that's really cool. That I feel like that's like the pristine type of like, not boss, but like pristine type of like person to like not look up to, but like to look up to, because it's like they take your input, but they're also like really smart and they really are
yeah.
locked in on whatever they want to do. And I think that's a great environment. So I'm super psyched that you get to do that, because that's super cool.
Yeah, it's awesome, especially like I said, I was like 24 at the time, and I just like I felt like coming from a very small town in the middle of nowhere where like nobody does anything like this. Like no one thinks about tech or like Silicon Valley or any of that where I'm from. They think about like the farms and stuff in rural Minnesota. Like my grandma doesn't even know who Elon is. Well, one of them, like one of my grandmothers has no idea who Elon is. The other one is an X Premium subscriber. So like yeah, the one who's an X Premium subscriber has a lot of fun talking to like her lady friends about me.
That's funny. You're probably the favorite grandson. You're like
Yeah,
the
I try to be.
conversation starter at bingo. You're like, she's like, my grandson knows Elon Musk.
No, that's not. She says my grandson maximizes shareholder value, and then all of them go, ooh, ah,
That's
yeah,
funny. And
yeah,
speaking of the Minnesota, do you think you're missing out on like the office culture being remote, or
yeah, yeah. I don't like being remote. I'm not a fan of being remote. If there was an office in Minnesota, I'd go to it. I'm just obsessed with Minnesota. Like I love Minnesota. I think it's like the best place to live. Besides the fact that it was like -20 yesterday. Um,
negative
I
20?
Yeah, it gets pretty cold here.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
It was a high of 39 Fahrenheit, like American, today, and I was freezing. I was
That's
freezing.
It was about the same here, like a high of 39 maybe. No, the high was 26, the low was only 2. So it's not bad today, and it's getting warmer, but yeah, I go to San Francisco maybe 3-4 times a year, and I'll stay close to the office, spend like literally all day there for like a week or two at a time, and that's really fun. It's fun to like be around everybody. Um, but yeah, I do like being in Minnesota, and I feel like that's the only thing that has value. Like I interviewed at OpenAI um, pretty soon after I joined Twitter because I thought like the company was gonna shut down. I thought I was gonna get fired, so it's like okay, I'll interview at OpenAI. Um, and it was cool, but they were like, "Oh, you'll have to move to San Francisco," and I was like, "No, I couldn't do it. Like, I offer me $1 million a year, I won't do it, um, just because I love Minnesota." Yeah,
Right. Wow. Well, before we wrap up, just one more thing. If you were speaking to like younger you, like 5 or 6 years ago or whatever, what would be like your advice, or hey man, don't turn left, turn right type thing, or don't like that post, don't cross that
yeah,
bridge.
yeah. That's a tough question. I think about it a lot, and I think like a lot of people think about what they would do if they could go back and change things. Um, I don't know if there would be much that I would like try to interfere with. I'm a believer in the butterfly effect. I feel like if I told myself to, do anything differently, that I wouldn't be where I am. I've gotten just insanely lucky my entire career with so many things, and that's what it comes down to. Like you can be, the best at what you do, but also like luck is such a big part of like being successful in tech. And I've just been super lucky so far. Um,
See, that's the wrong answer, because you should have just said buy a ton of Nvidia stock, and you
yeah,
just completely threw that opportunity away to become a
I don't think I would.
multi-trillionaire.
I don't think I would say that. That's an actual like a serious, a more serious answer is that like I don't think I would care about the money as much. Like, um, I get paid like the average that you would expect for someone in this kind of role, but like, um, I would take you know, a quarter of it, if it was like a project that I was even more like excited about. But thankfully, I'm in a position where like I really like the work that I'm doing, and I think it's really exciting. Um, but yeah, that's something I would say. Like, don't worry about the money too much. I stressed very heavily when I first joined the company because I was like, oh, I'm 24, I'm a senior engineer, I need to be a staff engineer at like 26. I need to be principal by 28, otherwise, like I'm a failure. I'm never gonna amount to anything. Um, and then like very quickly I realized like nobody cares about any of that stuff. Like it's just um like I think people think that other people care, but nobody does. The most important thing is just like finding work that you really enjoy doing.
Right.
This is a very mature perspective. I like this a lot. And you mentioned something about luck. Just don't undermine yourself. A piece of advice,
Yeah.
right? Because luck by itself is nothing. You need hard work to utilize the opportunity at hand.
Yeah, it's definitely like a combo. Um, so like yeah, the main thing is like I'll run into people and they'll be like, "Oh, you got a job, you like you got this really good job and you don't have a degree." So like if I join the military, I'll get that same job as you. And I'm like, "No, you're skipping so many random like bits of like luck and hard work that like added up to it." Um, so like people ask me like, "Should I go to college for CS?" Because I don't have a CS degree. I don't have a degree at all. And they're like, "Should I go to college for CS?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't know. Like I like that's causation and correlation here. I can't say you're gonna get a good job because you didn't get a degree.
CS
There's people
devs
who get
are
degrees.
cooked right now.
There are CS devs who are not cooked at all. Like there's CS devs who get internships and then get big salaries. There are CS devs who are incredible and they are working like at Domino's. Um, I used to work at Domino's, so I can say that. Um, so yeah, I think it's just like it's like a time thing as well. Like you need to get lucky with like the time and the environment. But also you have to like work hard and make sure that like if you do land that interview that you can clutch up. Um, yeah, that's a big part of it. Like getting interviews is huge. I spent like a year studying like interview psychology and like figuring out how to write resumes and like cold calling people, like reaching out to people on LinkedIn, essentially like begging for interviews. Um,
Did
and
you
I
find
interviewed
any
at,
of that like actually, like, because like obviously you see like the courses on TikTok that it's like just cold call, just cold email, but like have you seen those work out like really well for you, or like what's the
yeah,
the hit miss rate?
yeah. Like I said, I think so far in my career, I've interviewed OpenAI, Netflix, Google, Amazon, all of those places, and all of them I've reached out to on like LinkedIn, and I find someone who's in the same work role. Thankfully, I was in security engineering, which is like super niche. And I would be like, hey, like I'm really interested in the work that you're doing. Can I get like 5 minutes to chat about how I can like make myself competitive for roles at the company or whatever? And they're like, oh, by the way, there's actually a role open right now. And I'd be like, what? I didn't know that, but I absolutely did. Um, and then like it would lead to like they'd be like, oh, you should speak with our hiring manager. And I'd be like, okay, cool. Then I'd chat with them. They'd be like, okay, we'll get you into an interview. Um, and then yeah, like if you can get that first interview, I think with the hiring manager, then you're set. Like if you can just like clutch up, that's the hardest part is just getting that like first interview.
Because then
And
once
then the
after
lead
that,
code.
you can like, oh yeah, the leak code.
Yeah.
Are you what's your leak code score? Do you do a lot of leak code?
No, like not at all. Very, very small. Like I've solved two sum about 1,000 times. Um, it's like occasionally I'll go in and I'll like practice with it. Um, but I feel like every time I've done a leak code question, it's never been like that hard. I've just bombed because like I'm not good at that. Like I'm not good at doing a leak code interview question.
He's too cracked. He's too cracked. He was like, bro, they put a
Yeah.
a hexagon in front of me and told me to bounce a ball inside, and I did it. It's not that hard. Like anybody can do
It was
that.
easy, but then they asked me to rotate the hexagon and my ball bounced out. And then Theo made a video about it, so I'm down. Yeah.
Now you're just absolutely cooked.
Yeah.
Well, unless you have anything else that you'd like to share, funny story, horror story, anything like that.
Um, I don't know. I think I don't
Nothing
have
that will
anything
nothing that will get us
too bad.
demonetized.
You're already demonetized, so
Yeah,
I'll
I
make
know.
sure of
I
it. But
know.
no, I mean, I think it's usually pretty crazy when I get like followed by people who I look up to. Like there's some accounts that follow me and like it's so crazy. Like really big accounts or like Elon follows me, Lex Friedman, Andrew Huberman, all these like people who like I would watch their podcasts or whatever. Um, and so that's kind of cool and kind of weird. Um, but other than that, like I think that's like the main like weird cool thing about my job.
I think something else that's cool is like I'm sure you've heard like the 7 degrees of separation type thing between like you and anybody else. And like
Yeah.
the fact that like you can contact Elon, I think that literally puts you within like 2 degrees of separation or even three for like literally every like major famous person on this planet because obviously
Yeah.
Elon and Trump, but then it's just like that's like it's like crazy to think about, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And then the Primogen follows me, which puts me like within like 1 degree of basically everyone because he's probably the most famous person on the planet. Um, or at least people in Teapot would think so.
Yep. Sounds about right.
I think yeah, he's definitely the president of Teapot.
Yeah. No, Prime's incredible. I met him at TwitchCon and he's the nicest guy. That he definitely inspires me to do software engineering. So he was a big part of me doing what I do now. So that's cool. And then there's also Teach who exists.
Sometimes I mean like
Nah,
okay.
Teach is great. I like Teach too. He did say that I don't ship though, and ever since then I think we have beef.
Ooh, gonna have to call him out on that. Well, what do you mean you don't ship? How can you say that? There's like a new you push
It
out like a
was
new feature like every day.
it was a meme. It was a meme. He got me. He cooked me. Unfortunately, I had to use NeoVim for a day just to like recover.
Ouch.
Yeah, still trying to exit Vim. I had to unplug.
Dang. Yeah, you just gotta throw it out at that point because that's an impossible task right there. If I was asked that on an interview, I would just close the laptop lid because I'm like, you know what? This isn't a fit.
Yeah,
This isn't right.
yeah.
But yeah, awesome, man. I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up today. It's been such a pleasure having you on, and we will definitely have to have you on in a future episode, as in like a check-in to see like, have you actually shipped? Let's see if you've actually shipped any
Yeah.
features.
Has he shipped? Has he shipped? What's the over under? What's the poly market?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get Polymarket on that. But great having you on, and we will catch you guys next week for the next episode of NextDev, and we will see you then.